Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hi, I bid to my beloved and respected panel. My name is Afiq bin Yusri. Today, I would like to present about my research study. The topic is the physical activity level among UiTM's Rumban 3 students. First of all, I will show the presentation outlines. In this presentation, it consists 5 parts, which are Chapter 1 until Chapter 5. In Chapter 1 consists of background of the study, statement of the problem, and significance of the study. In Chapter 2 consists of literature review and conceptual framework. In Chapter 3 consists of research design, sampling, instrumentation, and data analysis. For Chapter 4 consists of result finding, and the last chapter is Chapter 5 consists of discussion and the references. Now, I will start with background of the study as related with independent variable in the research topic, which is the physical activity. Physical activity can be defined as any body movement produced by skeletal muscles that results in energy expenditure. There are evidence supporting a close correlation between health and physical activity, and the exposure to nature may have direct health benefits by Wei Ta-Fang, Eric Ng, and Mei Chuan Chang in 2017. For physical activity level, a person's physical activity level is that person's total energy use over a 24-hour period divided by his basal metabolic rate. Total energy required used over 24 hours divided by basal metabolic rate over the same 24 hours. According to the World Health Organization, in 2010, children and adolescents should engage in at least 60 minutes of moderate to intense moderate to vigorous physical activity (MVPA). Adults should engage in at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity each week, 75 minutes of intense activity, or a mix of the two, by Silva Sanchez, Miguel Pulido Prazedes, and Sanchez Oliva in 2018. Next, I will move to the statement of the problem. Involvement of students in physical activity can increase the student confidence, peer acceptance, leadership skills, and empathy. These are just 4 of the social benefits children receive from sports and physical activity. However, physical inactivity is a global problem that increases the risk of many chronic diseases and shortens life expectancy. The built environment contributes to physical inactivity through accessibility of amenities and transportation patterns. With better urban planning, cities could be designed to enhance active transportation and population health on a permanent basis, by Miko Karminiemi in 2018. Other than that, obesity and rates of non-communicable disease linked to physical inactivity have increased dramatically in Malaysia over the past 20 years. Malaysia has also been identified as one of the least physically active countries in the world, with over 60% of adults being essentially sedentary, by Tam Chai Lian in 2016. Next, I will describe my study's research objective. My study has 3 research objectives. For the first one, to determine the physical activity level among UiTM's Rumban 3 students. For the second one, to determine what physical activity domain that the students more involved among UiTM's Rumban 3 students. And the last one, to investigate the relationship between physical activity domain and physical activity level among UiTM's Rumban 3 students. Now, I will continue with Chapter 2, which is literature review. In this literature review, the social cognitive theory asserts that positively impacting the intermediate constructs of self-efficacy, the belief that an individual can effectively control their health habits. Outcome expectations, the expected benefits and efforts of adjusting health behaviors, intentions to engage in physical activity, perceived barriers of engagement in physical activity, and the setting of physical activity goals is essential to underpin change in the target health behavior, by Emilia V. Romeo in 2021. As you can see, the conceptual framework that relate with this study, which is the physical activity level among UiTM's Rumban 3 students. So, for the independent variable include physical activity at work, physical activity during transport, physical activity at home or in a garden, leisure time physical activity, and time spent sitting. For the dependent variable, which is level of intensity, it consists of three categories, which is low, moderate, and high. This study research design was non-experimental quantitative research. The process of gathering and evaluating numerical data is known as quantitative research. It may be used to identify patterns and average, make predictions, evaluate causal relationships, and generalize results to larger groups. This study was both descriptive and correlational. When the goal of the study is to discover the characteristics, frequencies, trends, and classifications, the descriptive research is an excellent choice. The descriptive method was employed to examine the respondents' demographic profile. The study was conducted quantitative method. Quantitative analysis was done in the study, which the data were all collected from the questionnaire. This study adopted a survey research which has been designed to investigate the physical activity level among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Now I will carry on with the sampling. The study's target population from student UiTM Seremban 3. The study's target population is UiTM Seremban 3 students. According to UiTM campus or official websites, the total number of students in UiTM Seremban 3 is 5,651 students. The sample size is 428 people who responded to the survey KG and Morgan 1970. The estimate sample must be taken from the student, but the population size is 357, so 20% sample must be added to avoid the unwritten rates being out. The following step is instrumentation. The study's data was gathered through a series of questionnaires divided into two sections, with each component assessing each of the factors important to the study's research objective. In Part A, there are 4 questions in this section. These questions focus on demographic profile of the respondents, which include gender, age, faculty, and level of education. This section was self-created with assistance of a supervisor. In Part B, International Physical Activity Questionnaire (IPAQ) are being used. The IPAQ long edition consists of 27 questions. The form has details about the specific types of activities undertaken within each of the 4 domains. Examples include walking for transportation and moderate intensity leisure time activity. The items in the long IPAQ form were structured to provide separate domain-specific scores for walking, moderate intensity, and vigorous intensity activity within each of the work, transportation, domestic course, and gardening, yard, and leisure time domains. Computation of the total scores for the long form requires summation of the duration in minutes and frequency days for all the types of activities in all domains. Now I will show the result for the Chromebox Alpha. The International Physical Activity Questionnaire (IPAQ) has been used to get the result. In this questionnaire, it consists of 4 different domains, which are work domain, active transportation domain, domestic and garden domain, and the last one is leisure activity domain. There are 27 items involved in this calculation. The result of Chromebox Alpha is 0.876 and Chromebox Alpha based on standardized item is 0.860. Now I will move to the data collection procedure. Before starting the research, some authorization and procedures were obtained from the various relevant authorities' ethics. The University Ethics Committee provides the researcher permission to perform the research in the form of a letter of approval. The questionnaire was given to respondents through Google Forms by the researcher. The researcher utilized Google Forms since the data was collected during a pandemic, and an online survey was one of the safest ways to disseminate the questionnaire. While the questionnaire was being given, the researcher provided information about the research and the questionnaire to ensure that the respondents were well informed about the research aims. Following that, data was collected from respondents and analyzed. Now I will move to data analysis. Descriptive analysis is used in data analysis to determine the physical activity level and what physical activity domain that students more involved among UiTM Seremban 3 students. The Pearson correlation coefficient, also known as the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient, R, is a measure used to determine the relationship rather than the difference between two quantitative variables, which is in this study were physical activity level and the physical activity domain. In this study, the researcher will use IBM SPSS version 26 to analyze the questionnaire. All of the collected data will be compiled into an SPSS file in order to transform the raw data and provide a variety of information in order to identify all of the factors in this situation. The descriptive and correlation analysis will be used in the study. Next, I will move to result finding for research objective 1. For the first result for research objective 1, it shows that the percentage of Now I will move to research objective 1 result finding. For the first result for research objective 1, it shows that the percentage of subject in high category of level activity is higher than the subject in moderate category. For the result in research objective 2, it shows that the standard deviation of time spent sitting is the highest, but it cannot include as the highest activity because the calculation of metabolic rate is not reached the low category of activity level. So, the housework activity is the most activity that being involved among the UiTM's Romantiga students. Next, for the result of research objective 3 shows that the higher of involvement in activity domain can affect the category of physical activity level. For the last chapter, which is chapter 5, I will discuss about the previous result for the research objective. For the research objective number 1, based on the result, it shows that the subjects are mostly categorized in high level of physical activity rather than moderate level of activity level. For research objective number 2, the most activity domain that be involved is physical activity at home or in the garden. In the previous study, some investigators have noted high prevalence estimates from the IPAC high physical activity category. In the current study, about 1/5 of the subjects were sufficiently and vigorously active and nearly 2/3 were sufficiently and moderately active by Ali Vashagani Farahani in 2011. For the last slide is all about my references for this presentation. That's all from me and thank you.